Today we're going to look at analyzing student responses. Your objective for the day is to analyze actual student responses. So these are responses that students had to open response questions, either in exit tickets or classwork. We're going to look at what they did wrong, what they did right, and what they could improve on. Let's jump in. Make sure you're looking at number 1. This is our first student response. The question is very important. Those are your instructions. The question says to use the quote to make an inference about Naya's culture or identity. We know that an inference is a judgment or an assumption, and it should tell us about Naya's character traits. This student chose their own quote. This quote came from page 39. It said, "Her silence frightened Naya. Naya had been annoyed by all the whining. Now she felt guilty, for she could see that her sister no longer had enough strength to complain." Now, to put this quote into context, this is when Naya's sister is sick. She had already taken her sister to the pond, and her sister whined a lot. She didn't want to have her sister there, as we normally get annoyed by younger siblings, but now she feels bad because her sister is sick. The response says, "I can infer that Naya felt guilty because she kept telling her sister to be quiet, and now she can't complain." I'm going to show you what I see, and I'm going to analyze this response. I'm going to use my pen here. Here in the quote, it says that Naya was frightened, which is a good and telling word. It said Naya had been annoyed by all the whining, and if you've read the book, you know why she is annoyed. But now Naya feels guilty because she can see that her sister doesn't have strength to complain. This is a great quote. I really commend this student for choosing this quote. It tells a lot about Naya. It definitely shows that she's an 11-year-old girl. It definitely shows that she's annoyed by her sibling, which we can connect to. But there's also a lot that we can't connect to. It's very dangerous in Sudan, and Naya is definitely feeling that as she looks at her sister. Now, if I look at the response, it says that Naya feels guilty because she kept telling her sister to be quiet, but now she can't complain. Now, a few things. I don't know what this she is referring to. Is it referring to Naya or Naya's sister? Because this she refers to Naya, so this one is unclear. Also, it says the word guilty here, but it says the word guilty here. And it says that she can't complain here, but it says that she can't complain here. This is basically a retell of what the quote is already telling me. It's not giving me any information about Naya's culture or identity. So, what did this student do well? We're going to look at the response and check all that apply. Did the student use a proper sentence starter? Why, yes, they did. They used "I can infer." That's a great sentence starter, and it's awesome to see the student using accountable talk outside of discussion time. Did the student make an inference? Unfortunately, this isn't an inference. Like I said before, it's just a retell of what was going on before. So I'm going to say no. Did the student use their own words? Going back to what I just said, unfortunately, this student restated the quote too much. So I'm going to say no. They didn't use their own words. Did the student use a complete sentence? Why, yes, they did. Which is great to see because that means that the student is proud of their work. And did the student connect to other parts of the text? This student did not connect to other parts of the text. As an outside reader, I wouldn't know why Naya's sister was complaining to begin with, or why she can't complain now. I also wouldn't know why silence frightens Naya. Those are all great things that could help me inference Naya, but I really need to dig into the text and think about what it is I know about Naya and her situation in order to make an inference. Now we're going to look at how the student could improve. Could this student put it in their own words? Why, yes. It's very important that when you're making an inference, that you use synonyms, your own thoughts, your own conclusions, and ideas. You are making a conclusion about a character, their identity, their culture, or their traits, so you need to be using your own words. This student should have connected it to Selva. This part of the story isn't really related to Selva, so I would say no, that this story is not really, or that this answer is not very necessary. The third option says, the student should think about the overall gist and the theme. Definitely. This is probably the most important part when making an inference. You really want to think about what the book is telling you and how the character changes, and that will help you make an inference. The fourth option says, this student should explain why Naya's sister can't complain. Yes. Adding that important detail that Naya's sister is sick would help me understand your inference, so the student should explain why Naya's sister can no longer complain. The last option says that this student should make an implicit inference. If you recall, implicit means not clearly stated. And yes, our inferences are implicit. They are things that we conclude about our character. So this student should have done all of these things to improve their answer. Moving on. Question 2. Question 2 is the same question, but instead it's referring to Selva. The quote says, Selva felt a tiny spark of hope. With Uncle looking for his family, there was a chance they might be together again. The response is, what I can infer about Selva's culture or identity is that he still has hope, even through the tough moments. This student did restate some of the quote, but they also added their own. Let's go ahead and look at that. Here, it says that Selva has hope, and that is a judgment we can make about his character. But unfortunately, it also says that he has hope here. So that is a restatement of what's already being said in the quote. We want to make sure we're using our own words. Here, however, it says, even through the tough moments. This is a great explanation about why Selva has hope. Selva's journey is very difficult, and Uncle knows that in order to keep Selva going, he needs to instill Selva with hope and belief that his family might still be there. So let's go ahead and look at how we can help this student. Their response is, what I can refer about Selva's cultural identity is that he still has hope, even through the tough moments. I want you to give one compliment to the student and one suggestion. This means that you are writing 2 complete sentences that you can be proud of as well. One way to start your sentence is, one compliment I would give this student is, or one suggestion I would give this student is, and then go ahead and give that student your one compliment or suggestion. Please pause this video. Make sure you pause to give yourself enough time before I move on. Moving on now. Question 3. The next questions come from the exit ticket that we recently took. The exit ticket asked you to read an article about great white sharks. This is a nonfiction text, meaning that it's real. We've been reading a lot of nonfiction texts in class and been able to pull evidence and make inferences about our nonfiction texts. The question says, the article suggests the conclusion that great white sharks are unique and mysterious creatures. Write one paragraph that explains this claim. Use at least 2 pieces of evidence that fully support that claim, and be sure to explain your evidence using complete sentences. First, I'm going to look at the instructions. The instructions ask me to write 1 paragraph. I can already tell in my response that this student attempted to do that. The instructions also tell me that I need to explain the claim, and here is my claim. Great white sharks are unique and mysterious creatures. That is a claim that by reading the article, I could make. The instructions then ask you to list 2 pieces of evidence and fully support them with an explanation of complete sentences. We look at the response here. The great white sharks are unique and mysterious creatures. On paragraph 2, it states, great whites have excellent vision that allow them to hunt. This quote shows that one quality that makes them so unique is that they have great vision, which not only helps them hunt, but also survive. Also, on paragraph 3, it states that, although they can be found in unusual places, they generally live in temperate oceans. This quote shows that they are mysterious because, for some reason, they have a preference of what habitat they choose to live in. Now, there are many things that this student did well, and there are also many things the student could improve on. Let's go ahead and look at them. Did this student generally follow the instructions? Yes. Yes, they did. They wrote a paragraph, they provided 2 pieces of evidence, and they explained their evidence. But I'm going to break it down for you. First, we see that there are a few spelling errors. We need to make sure that we are taking pride in our work and not leaving spelling errors or punctuation errors. We see that the word mysterious is misspelt, and it is in the question, so that could have been easily avoided. What the student did do well is they used the claim. They restated the claim that says great white sharks are unique and mysterious creatures. That's a great topic sentence. Way to go. They also said on paragraph 2 it states. This is a great transition. That's a great introduction to our evidence. They then tell me great white sharks have excellent vision that allow them to hunt. This is their first piece of evidence. They then go on to say this quote shows. This tells me that they are going to explain their evidence. Awesome job. This quote shows that one quality that makes them so unique is that they have great vision, which not only helps them hunt but also survive. They repeated a little bit of the quote here, but then they explained it, especially emphasizing that it helps them survive. So far, so good. This student is doing well. However, they did forget some quotation marks there. Then it says, also in paragraph 3, it states that, although they can be found in unusual places, they generally live in temperate oceans. There should be quotation marks here as well. This quote shows that they are mysterious because for some reason they have a preference of what kind of habitat they choose to live in. Now, again, they used a great introduction showing me that they're explaining their quote. However, their explanation doesn't really make sense to me. They're mysterious because they prefer to live in warmer water? Well, how does that make them mysterious? As animals, we often have preferences of what sort of habitat we like to live in. Also, saying because for some reason is not very strong. It doesn't tell me that you're confident in your answer. So, first, what I want you to do is answer this question. Did they follow instructions? Yes. Then I want you to go, pause the video, and edit their response with proofreading marks. I'm going to move on, but make sure you pause to give yourself enough time. Alright, welcome back from editing the response. Let's go ahead and circle all the things that this student did well. The answers will not appear here, so go ahead and answer them as I say them. Did the student use quotes? Did the student capitalize when needed? Did the student punctuate correctly? Did the student write a proper paragraph? Did the student use supportive evidence? Did the student explain their evidence thoroughly? Did the student use transition words and phrases for quotations? And did the student use proper spelling? Again, the answers will not appear, so make sure you're selecting your own answers. Now, using the same options, we're going to look at what the student could improve on. Could they improve on using quotes? Did they need to capitalize? Did they need better punctuation? Did they not write a paragraph? Was their evidence not supportive? Did they need to explain their evidence more thoroughly? Could they have used better transition words or phrases? And could they have fixed their spelling? This student got a 3 on their response. They could have explained their evidence more thoroughly. However, they did exactly as they were instructed. they found evidence, they supported the claim, and they found two pieces of evidence, and then they explained their evidence. Way to go. Our next response is even more exemplary. This is the type of work that I expect from almost all of you every day. The same question supporting the claim that great white sharks are unique and mysterious creatures. The response says, the article claims that great white sharks are great because their unique features allow them to do more than what people expect based on their physical appearances. In the second paragraph, it talks about the talents they use to survive. For example, although sharks are large, they navigate through the ocean waters skillfully. Great whites have excellent vision that allow them to hunt. In addition, great whites have a distinct sense of smell. Great whites will lift their heads above the water to smell their prey. This shows me that they exceed the expectations that people have for them because of their physical body. Now, this student did a lot well, and there's a few things that they could improve on. But first, did this student follow directions? Yes, they did. They wrote a paragraph to support the claim. Now, I'm going to show you some of the things the student did well and some of the things they could improve on. They used the claim in the topic sentence, but they also added on to it by expanding that their features and physical appearance exceeds what people expect of them. This tells me that they're putting in their own ideas. Way to go, student. They also add an extra sentence here. In the second paragraph, it talks about the talents that they use to survive. This tells me a lot about what the student's going to be writing about. Then here, they have a very large quote. They've pulled out important parts of the text. All of these texts relate to their physical features or their talents. They have excellent vision, they navigate through water skillfully, they have a sense of smell, they lift their heads. All of these things relate back to the topic. That's great. Then they say, this shows me they exceed the expectations. This is their conclusion. It completely restates their topic sentence. I would suggest that they explain their evidence a little more thoroughly before putting in the conclusion paragraph. They're missing something that could go here. Explain to me why these things are so awesome for the great white shark. So, given that analysis, go ahead and circle all the things that the student did well. Did they use quotes? The student capitalized when needed. The student punctuated correctly. The student wrote a proper paragraph. The student used supportive evidence. The student explained their evidence thoroughly. The student used transition words and phrases. And the student used proper spelling. Go ahead and choose your answers now. What about things the student could have improved on? Did the student use quotes? Could the student have improved on their capitalization? Could the student have improved their punctuation? Could the student have written a more proper paragraph? Could the student have used supportive evidence? Could the student have explained their evidence more thoroughly? Did the student use transition words and phrases for their quotations? And lastly, did they use proper spelling? Now, go ahead and circle all the things the student could have improved on. This student received a 3. The student followed instructions, and although they made minor errors, they did explain themselves and have strong evidence. They could have explained themselves more thoroughly, but their evidence was pretty self-explanatory. They wrote a very strong paragraph with both a topic and concluding sentence. Way to go. Our last one. Same question. Write a paragraph that explains the claim that great white sharks are unique and mysterious creatures. Make sure that you provide evidence and explain your evidence. Here's the student's response. The student told me that this is about sharks. Did this student follow directions? Go ahead and write that down on your paper now. This student did not follow directions. Now, this is a common mistake that I see a lot. Students make this mistake on many tests, on unit tests, state tests, map tests. Oftentimes, they don't read the question, and they read something and just assume that they're supposed to tell me what it's about. Well, in 7th grade, we no longer want you to tell us what the text is about, but we want to hear your thinking about the text. So don't just tell us what it's about unless that's what we're asking. Unfortunately, because many of us choose to do something similar to this on our exit tickets, we are losing those 3 points on our exit tickets. This student scored a 0. They didn't even score a 1 because they did not follow the instructions at all. Your instructions are, what advice would you give this student to improve their answer? You're going to go into your packet and write 3 to 4 sentences to give this student some advice and some thoughtful tips on what they could do to improve their answer. That's all. Make sure that you continue to work silently so that other students in class can learn efficiently and respectfully. Thank you.